Honorable members, the Assembly now resumes. We continue from where we left it. We had Fonyi Kansala was the last speaker. I now invite the Honorable Member for Kiang West.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. I think this is a rare opportunity. Few National Assembly members will have an opportunity like this to deliberate on such an important and a sensitive business. And what makes it more serious as far as National Assembly members are concerned, the establishment of this Special Select Committee was sanctioned and moved by members of Parliament themselves. Extraordinary session was called where members debated extensively about the matter in question, and committee was later established where we believe the constitution of that committee has across all parts of the National Assembly. So that gave us confidence that the outcome of the results would definitely look like what we have on the table today. And this is why during the first debate on the motion to establish a Special Select Committee, I told my colleagues that we should be able to approach this matter bipartisanshiply and put aside all sentiments and look at the substance objectively. Honorable Speaker, let me thank your humble office and the office of the clerk for the provision of the necessary logistic to the disposal of the chairman of the Special Select Committee and the committee members. Special equipment mechanisms were put in place for communication and a lot to ensure that this work is done and to ensure transparency during the hearings of the committee through National Assembly networks, either YouTube or Facebook Live. People were following sessions. So that shows how well we were ready to ensure transparency in this proceeding. I want to also thank the committee chair for professionalism and ethical conduct, the way you have moderated over the affairs of the committee. It tells a lot about this house. This is how an independent body works. So I want to thank you for that leadership that you have provided the committee with, and the rest of the committee for the good job they've done, the questions they've posed, and their cooperation and compliance with the rules that you've put to yourself that would guide your deliberations. It's worth commending. Your clerks, of course, and that of your technical backup, the legal team have done a tremendous work. We have seen the interrogations that has happened between them and senior government officials who are more senior in their respective fields, but they've interrogated them objectively to an extent that you think they are even more senior. So the lead counsel and the rest of the legal team, we say thank you so much. The committee secretariat, who has provided you with all the reporting techniques and to compile all the documents, we want to tell them thank you very much for this job. And I want to commend my deliberation by thanking all of you and the rest of the members of Parliament who has contributed to the success of this work. Honorable Speaker, this report revealed a lot. It is not administrative lapses. It is not violation of law. You have seen frauds deliberately on a broad daylight on this report. For that being the matter, I will take the assembly through the landed properties that will be my deliberation. If you read this report, you cannot read everything. But for you to quickly have heart attack, please read the landed reports, the landed properties. Honorable Speaker, this will give you the testimony of the former Attorney General. The testimony, I don't know if it was virtual, I want to be told, what testimony do you have had from the former finance minister? Because I have seen some of submissions he has made to the committee. I would want to know if these submissions were physically done, or it was virtual, or he has already only submitted documents to you. Former finance minister, Mamburenjai. Honorable Speaker, it was revealed in the report, but somebody quoted that no recommendation was made for the current Attorney General. There is a very strong and in fact a more severe recommendation against the current Attorney General, probably than many people found wanting in this report. Honorable Speaker, may I refer this assembly to page 154. Page 154, if you look at that page, it reveals a lot. This committee receives both physical testimonies and submissions by various witnesses. And it was revealed that the former Attorney General, Batambedu, has followed all the laws, the procedures in setting up a committee. This report revealed that. In fact, if you read the report, it tells you his altercation in a written letter from the former Minister of Finance, Mamburenjai, and to him, stating that illegality of establishing a committee of this nature without following the due process, without following the law, and threats, several threats, has pursued his letter to refer them to the law, to tell that would threaten his job, perhaps. Honorable Speaker, the page I referred you to, it says, paragraph 504, this committee is in receipt of both technical and interministerial committee report. It is the observation of the committee that both reports remain unsigned, and none of the witnesses were in a position to produce a signed copy of this, to this honorable committee. When the committee posed to the secretary to cabinet why unsigned report was of the interministerial task force was tabled and discussed at the cabinet, he was unable to explain, but admitted that this was both unusual and improper. It is telling you an interministerial committee was established, their report was unsigned, it was tabled and discussed in cabinet. The flaws in the system of governance. That was not even an authentic document. Because for that report to be authenticated and validated before being tabled, accepted at the cabinet, supposed to be signed. Who is the head of the cabinet? Who is the head of the cabinet? head of the cabinet is, of course, the head of state. He presides over affairs of the cabinet, over cabinet meetings. The report is telling us that this report was not signed, but tabled and discussed in cabinet. Let me proceed a little bit. It says it is the evidence of the former Attorney General. So this exists a signed copy of the report. What is telling us, a former Attorney General telling them a signed copy existed. A signed copy existed, but he could not produce. He could not produce a signed copy. In fact, informing Parliament that this exists when it doesn't exist is a contempt of the House. It's about lying on the oath. I don't know at what time has the person actually gave you this information. But telling you something exists and each witness that appeared before the committee has been administered an oath before they testified. So telling you that an information exists and you realize it doesn't exist is a line of on the oath. Honorable Speaker, but it doesn't stop there. It says the Interministerial Task Force Committee, that is paragraph 505, reports in hearing and marked Annex E. 506, it says the evidence before the committee demonstrates that February 2020, the irregularities surrounding the management and disposal under the discovery of the recovered assets, as discussed above, had already been comprehensively documented. But the current Attorney General is found seriously wanted. What happened, Honorable Speaker? It would have appeared that when the former Attorney General flows all these laws, excluding the Minister for Finance from the Interministerial Committee, we would have expected that when a new minister is appointed, all these flaws, all these anomalies, all these violations of the law would have been regulated, would have been called to the order. We expected that the current Attorney General would have called the cabinet to the order and tell them, look, what has happened in my absence, I have no control over that, but office's continuity. As a result, I'm trying to normalize what has gone wrong. But he refused to do that. And this is what committee found. I love this committee. This committee says, if you look at 5 or 7 paragraphs, it is against this background that the committee considered it significant that approximately 4 months after the changes between the Honorable Njai and Honorable Tambidu, the later vacated office. The later vacated office. It says, while the committee considered that a change in the holder of the office of the Attorney General should have ordinarily presented an opportunity for institutional correction, evidence before the committee shows that the structures, decisions, and all the abnormalities in the disposal process previously objected to, including the execution of the Minister for Finance and the operation of the recovery account outside the Treasury framework, were not materially altered upon the assumption of the office by the succeeding minister, Honorable Dauda Jallow. He refused to correct them because he benefited, or he also tried to accomplish the project that was started by the former minister. And he persisted to change this. This is why if you look at the recommendation, and before you reach the recommendation, if you look at paragraph 5 or 11, 511 rather, the committee similarly finds that by opening commercial bank account without authorization and by passing the Accountant General, Honorable Tambidi created parallel financial system that operated outside the constitutional and statutory frameworks provided in the Public Finance Act. That happened. It doesn't stop there. The committee still finds that if you look at paragraph 512, the committee finds the threats of criminal proceedings against the Minister of Finance for insisting on compliance with the Public Finance Act to be distasteful, distasteful, unethical, and constitute an abuse of the Attorney General's position and an attempt to obstruct legislative oversight by the colleague minister. This was the threat that pursued the former finance minister. The committee still finds that the committee does compelled to conclude that Honorable Tambidi's conduct fell far short of standards expected of the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice. The principal legal advisor to the government charged under section 72(2) of the Constitution with ensuring that all government actions comply with the law. These were violations that happened. Violations of law. The chief custodian of the Constitution, the supreme law of our land, violated the law. And we expected that this would have been corrected, but it was never. Honorable Speaker, the committee still finds that the disposal of certain landed properties was undertaken without clear statutory or regulatory frameworks governing the sales of forfeited immovable assets. The committee finds that too. The committee further finds that the procedures adopted fail to meet the minimum standard of due process, fairness, and accountability required in the disposal of public assets. And as a result of all this that I have said, the committee recommends and tell you, the public, and the National Assembly that the executive, through the police, conduct criminal investigation under the supervision of the Director of Public Prosecution and institute criminal proceedings against the former Attorney General and the Minister of Justice, Honorable Tambidu, for, among other things, for systematic and deliberate violation of Public Finance Act 2014, abuse of office, economic crimes, and among other things. The committee further recommends to you that the committee recommends that the Honorable Attorney General and the Minister for Justice, Honorable Dauda Jallo, be reprimanded for perpetuating and validating unlawful administrative arrangements established by the predecessor. This is what I'm saying. He refused to correct the anomalies done by the predecessor. So this very House recommends that him be reprimanded. The committee recommends that the Asset Management and Recovery Corporation, AMRC, be immediately reconstituted. I am not surprised they are trying to wind out AMRC. I am not surprised. It's a huge cover-up. And Assembly is telling you that please do not wind it out. Do not wind down this institution. reconstitute an institution again. We want to investigate the anomalies that happen. Honorable Speaker, these are some of the things that are happening. These are the issues that are happening in this country. Honorable members of Parliament, several reports were laid here that concern sanctions for public officers. What is our level of follow-up in terms of implementation of those things? Because when we were adopting the resolution to establish this committee, I questioned. I said, what is the result? What is the outcome? After, when the investigation is done, the committee has done a brilliant work. We argued here. Okay, it's a committee, it's a government member, deputy minority, majority leader. He cannot chair the committee. We believe that he may not be very much independent and impartial. But this is his work. This is the great work done by them. Honorable members, I'm not sure any member is prepared to come and be countering other members after their deliberation when you have 1 million issues before you. Let's join hands to put this country on track. Honorable Speaker, let's have a look at page 149. Page 149, I mark it as executive failure, paragraph 481. It says, the committee received evidence from both the former and the current Attorney General and the Minister for Justice, the former and present cabinet secretaries and members of the cabinet, all of whose evidence revealed that the administrative process adopted by the executive in disposing of assets identified by the commission in this document should tell us is Jammeh Commission, particularly the landed properties, was in two folds, i.e., through the appointment of the interministerial committee with the sub-technical committee mandated to advise on third parties' claims and to advise, report to cabinet on other matters as it is related to the landed properties, and the appointment of the receiver to dispose of some of the landed properties. Honorable Speaker, it would surprise this very House that a receiver made a profit of over 100 million, out of this business. Honorable Speaker, kindly permit me, I would refer the committee to that place. Honorable Speaker, the newly landed properties, go to page 145. Newly discovered properties. The Commission in its report noted that the investigation into certain properties were not conclusive and that further investigation was required. Particularly for the following identified landed properties: Kersering Njaga, Kairaba Avenue, they are all with their serial numbers. Kairaba Avenue, again, another property. Banta Kaira, another property. Lamin Kerawan, and Jifanga Village. But, Honorable Speaker, if you look at below, there are a lot of properties that are also listed under this. The committee received all these evidences. If you look at the list of lands below on the page 146, you will see K Point Bakau, plot 1. It says, plot formerly owned by the former president, located near Kalispo, reported to be presidents as heavily encroached up on both northern and southern sides. Fencing foundations, sorry, I'm fasting, Fencing foundations were observed. Another properties, Cape Point Bakau, plot 2. Purchaser, the identified is unknown. The committee was not informed by which Lebanese bought this. Lamin CDC, fully fenced but partially demolished due to encroachment. It's also another property. This is page 146.
Paragraph?
No, it's a table. It's a table on the paragraph.
Okay.
Parato Mango Garden. This is one of the properties. Parato Nyambai Forest Strip. Senegambia, empty land opposite Lawyer Sheriff Tambiri's residence. Allocated to the former First Lady, signs of construction not presented to the commission. I don't know why they refused. And all these were some of the properties that were known. I want to ask the committee, can you please establish to this August House, under whose custody do we have these lands presently as we speak? Do you went on to find out whether these lands were later sold and under whose name? Because it would definitely interest this House to know who is in custody of these properties. Bruceby Tranquil. It says, initially linked to the former president, searched and sealed by court order, prima facie ownership established by third parties, Amadou Kora and Fatou Dabo. It doesn't stop there again. Brufut Tanje is another land. Brufut before Sheraton Hotel is another land. Brufut Garden is another area not presented to the commission, identified as belonging to the former president. Why not presented? This tells you that some of the lands were identified. When they were identified, they were removed. Some of these properties were later removed. They were not presented to the commission. They were not also sold. And this country needs to know under whose custody, under whose name do we have these lands presently. You have Babakunku is another area. Honorable Speaker, let me look at these other recommendations before I conclude. It says the committee recommends that within 6 months from the adoption of this report, the Ministry of Lands, in collaboration with the Attorney General's chambers and the Accountant General's department, should establish and maintain a single consolidated asset register of all landed properties associated with the former President Yahya Ejeje Jammeh and his associates and forfeited to the state. The said register should include comprehensive, shall include comprehensive particulars of each property, locations, coordinates, size boundaries, lease registration numbers, title status. Okay, what I have questioned, I want to see that the committee is recommending that for further investigations to be done in some of the areas. But when are we going to stop investigation? Somebody should be found wanting for doing something wrong. Investigation after investigation, investigation after investigation. I'm not sure if there will be another investigation on the Special Select Committee. Honorable Speaker, it would appear to the committee that certain landed properties were deliberately not brought to the attention of the commission. This is what they are telling us. That's what the committee has established. It was not an oversight. It is telling us these areas that we've talked about were deliberately not brought to the attention of the commission. It is not of doubt that you see today in some of the areas being occupied by public officers. But, honorable members, some of you reference the former presidents and their ownerships of assets. I was told reliably, but after a thorough investigation by the Alkali Commission, President Jaura was found to be in possession of two assets. Two assets. Two. If you know more, you can remind me, please. I would accept it. Two assets. We are talking about former presidents, Jammeh, being in possession of more than 100 plus assets. 100 plus assets. This is why I said 100 plus, that can be up to 1 million. 100 plus assets. I would question, how many lands do we own today as public officers? How many lands do some public officers own today? And if you investigate pretty well, you would find that some of them belongs to the state. And I'm not going to exonerate or exclude the current president on this. This is a lesson for all of us. And we must learn that lesson. In possession of the plenty properties that belongs to the state, it doesn't earn any president anything. Life after presidency is more important than anything in the world. Anything in the world. Life after public office is more important than anything in the world. Presidency is the highest position Allah could give anybody on the face of the earth. It is the highest paid position you go to any country in the world as far as public office is concerned. What else will you not have as the president? I want to be sure, if the former president is to be questioned, would you have earned all these properties? He would say, no, I need a compound, I need a house, I need a bed, I need a vehicle to drive, and full stop. But he would not have preferred to acquire all of this. What is the essence of it? Nothing. And I think it's a lesson that the current president could learn. Honorable Speaker, for me to conclude, let me tell you, the committee, I am pretty much happy. I am pretty much happy. I'm fasting. I cannot tell you all that I have read, and I think others are coming equally. But this report revealed a lot. This report revealed a lot. It reveals a lot. National Assembly members, let's have a strong resolution. For the fact that no general recommendations were made, I would prefer that we refer the committee to go and draft a resolution. You bring it to us and we would adopt it with you. But all the recommendations are after each testimony and each evidence been given. But it would help this parliament if you would have either have a general recommendation or an entire resolution that you will bring to the committee for us to adopt, like FPAC and PEC used to do. When you bring that report format, then we will look at your resolution, either adjust or reduce something, then we can be able to adopt that. That being said, Honorable Speaker, thank you so much for giving me the floor.